move to onto a show that I actually am enjoying, and you two are too. I'm assuming you liked the latest episode of the Winchesters, which was not about a werewolf, but could have been about a werewolf, and that's the part that I wish it was about. But anyway, the monster of the week, because there always is one, was interesting, and of course, John was put into a terrible situation once again.
I loved that. I mean, I say this every week, but I love Drake's performance because it was such a switch from how we usually see him when he's like taken over by this monster. He get
Mhm.
the switch that happened was so exciting. And I don't want to have another comparison to Smallville, but I said this to you guys. It was like Red Kryptonite Clark in Smallville, and that was also like a clutch my pearls. Like, oh, okay.
It was really, really good to see him into this in the center of that story. But one thing I really appreciated was, remember in the last episode when he said, no, we have to hunt people regardless, and he didn't didn't show like much emotion as far as the fact that they were dealing with Ada's son in that episode, and it felt very much like a standalone thing. I think we're just used to these plots of the week developing on that plot, but now having seen the episode afterwards, that was kind of a tease for what was to come for John's overall story. And then he's just headstrong, rushing into danger. And then he feels he has to hunt. And I feel like that really played into this episode. I remember being slightly disappointed that they didn't follow on with it. And in this episode, it became all about that. So that earned it a very high mark for me. I really like delving into what was going on with John. And I hate it when characters act out of character for no reason. And because we had that little tease in the episodes beforehand, his concerns over whether he's a hunter or not, whether he can do this, the doubts he has in himself, it all really felt really like authentic. And the fact that he was then being mean to Mary as well, because he couldn't get his head around why people were questioning when he was doing the wrong thing. He was rushing headstrong into danger, and it backfired in the end. I haven't seen that trope done that well in quite some time, and I really enjoyed that episode because of it.
I think what was really, as far as John and Mary's interactions, they highlighted some things that had happened in previous episodes. So like John's tendency to hide behind the thing that he's comfortable with rather than discussing the thing that he's not. And it was nice seeing Mary call him out on that. She's like, don't make this about me, because it's not about me. This is about you feeling the need to hunt. And it's not that he isn't concerned about making sure that Mary survives long enough to be able to leave hunting, and that he wants to protect her. Like, all of that's true, but that's not why you're punching a bag out here. like you do, like, he feels very deeply about her. But if there's anything else that he feels more deeply about, it's about living up to his idea of who he's supposed to be. And when he's not the one in charge, when he's not the one who's can protect everybody, he feels like there's something wrong with him, that he should be better. And he's been here it's been like a few months, maybe a couple of months, but he feels like he should be like super action hero hunter. It's like, that's not how this works. And you can't rush headlong into danger. You have to wait for the facts. Not that Mary does that all the time, but she's more willing to do it than he is.
What was that foreshadowing moment? I think there was somebody that was like describing another person or a monster, and as they were describing it, I was like, oh, they're describing John. It was something about like anger, right?
I wish I remembered his name. The former hunter who supposedly had died in the cave-in, but actually was murdered by his friends.
Yes, Mac, was it? Mac? Was that what he was called? I think so.
Yeah, when they were like describing what happened, I was like, ooh, that's John. It's not good. And then it ended up coming full circle because John did kind of realize, like, wait, this isn't working. And he turned to Lata because she saved the day, not with anger, not with violence, with just, let's talk about it. Let's put the weapons down. Let's have a chat. And it worked. And then he was like, hey, Lata, can I meditate with you?
The great part about Lata's part was that it came from a place of recognizing anger herself, speaking about her father coming back from war and all the anger that he had brought into their lives because of it, and then how she responded with anger herself. and that it wasn't until she had hurt someone that she loved that she realized, okay, this is not okay. Like the anger is just, it's out of control. There's no use for it. And so she just refuses to engage. And that's not to say that she doesn't get angry. Obviously she does, but she's more self-aware, I think, than probably most of the team when it comes to anger and the dangers it can cause when you're not thinking straight and you're just holding on to all of that emotion instead of doing something useful with it. I think John thinks that his anger, the way that he uses it as a weapon, and therefore in his mind it's useful, but it's actually just tainting him, and it's tainting his relationships. It might make him feel stronger, like Mars Neto was trying to tell him, but it's not actually. It doesn't serve him in the way that he thinks. It's more like he's serving anger.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they've delved into it a little bit in previous episodes, like his run-in with Mars Neto, the fact that he didn't feel confident talking about himself, the fact that the demons maybe see him as the answer to stopping the Akrita because of that potential darkness within him, because he hasn't addressed it. And I feel like as the show's going on now, we're starting to see him open up that a little bit more, because he thinks he's in control of it. But like you said, Sabrina, it's controlling him. And it's interesting seeing like Mary is kind of like that, but in a more like controlled kind of way. She will rush headstrong into danger, but she usually does have at least a semblance of a plan. Whereas because John did it this week with absolutely no kind of plan, it was up to Mary then to have to try to help. And I do think this episode kind of like pivoted from what we were expecting. We were expecting Mary to be the one to save John because we've seen that so many times already. But then it ended up being Lata in the end. And Lata's quickly become the MVP of the show for me, because she was right about the poison ivy wannabe monster a few weeks ago. She knew what that was when Mary didn't believe her. She was able to consult her contact that time about the other monster as well, and now she was able to stop the angry demon, Mac, I think that's his name, this week by choosing the opposite route. They didn't choose violence, so to speak, and Lata was the one behind that. And I feel like she's quickly becoming the MVP of the show for me, because there seems to be another unexpected way, and it's really nice seeing her come to the forefront as a great character.
I love her character development because she's very insecure about where she fits in this group.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she knows that she can do the research, she can tell them about the monster, but she doesn't fight them. And she feels like she doesn't contribute anything in that way. I think that's kind of what she was getting at in this episode. And then she was like, okay, wait, yeah, I am an asset. I bring something to this team that's not just knowledge, even though knowledge is very important. She can be the one to step into danger and use, I think, the way that she used, I guess, pacifism to fight that demon, that is knowledge. That's emotional intelligence to be able to, step in and say, no one has to die right now. Like, we don't need to kill John to kill the demon. We can find another way. One where no one has to lose a life. Doesn't have to be more tragedy in the situation. And watching her character development, I think, will be one of the most I don't want to say the most, because they all are on their own journeys, but it's a different one, right? Because John and Mary and Carlos aren't super insecure in the same way as Lata. She's very like, what do I bring to the table? I feel like I bring nothing. And it's I think the most relatable journey, because I don't think a lot of us can relate to what specifically John and Mary are going through in the same way. It's very larger than life what they're going through, and we might be able to grab onto certain emotions, but like largely, I think a lot of people can see themselves in Lata.
And she's the one who keeps their feet to the ground. Like, hopefully this is the episode where she really, like, she internalizes everything that she learned, because she's the one who problematizes the idea that there's no choice. What is her name? What is Mary's family friend's name?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, the one in this episode, was it Tracy? Was that Tracy?
Tracy sounds right.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Tracy?
she was played by Lila from Arrow, so I was like, yes, I know you. I'm pretty sure it was Tracy.
Okay, we're gonna go with Tracy because I can't find it. But I think Tracy kept saying, after she revealed the truth, that we had no choice, right? This was the situation we had. We tried talking to him and it didn't work. So we had to kill him. And Lata is a person who's always like, okay, but why does the I have no choice always end up with someone getting hurt? Like, why isn't there a so because it's very easy to lean into saying I didn't have a choice in something. It's something that always came up in the 100 was like, and every time they didn't have a choice, massive amounts of people died. But to be fair to and to that show, a lot of times it was time sensitive, right? So when you have an abundance of time, when you have the ability to find another solution, you should find another solution. Now, granted, Mac was using John to kill Mary, but so it was time sensitive, but Lata still took, the space she had to talk him down in a way that somehow his team never did. Somehow it was easier to just set off explosives and bury that man. And I get it's like the stakes are higher. He was using black magic. Black magic was corrupting his soul. They couldn't get him to chill out. But at the same time, like, you knew he was a loose cannon before. Shouldn't we have already been checking in with him routinely to make sure that he was okay instead of just letting him go on? But there was also a sort of, that's a soldier mentality too. Like that is something that people, that is usually praised in combat, like someone who's surefire and knows what they're doing and capable and able to take on the most dangerous in soul destroying aspects. But like, you have to check on those people too. Like, you can't just like, and that's John. Mm-hmm. Not that they're not checking up on John, they are checking up on John. John has to listen, but like, you have to do it early enough where they don't suddenly, that it's going to be hard to take down their walls. Like, if you let someone run with that much anger for a certain amount of years, the ability to pull them back from the edge is going to take even longer.
Was this the episode where John opens up to Mary, or was that the week before?
Opens up in what way?
He was like, I remember him being honest about what happened with that Mars guy.
Oh,
was it this one? Because I remember making like guessing like, oh, I think the first person that John will like open up to about what he's been going through is Mary. And I remember it happening, but I can't remember if it was this episode. Do you guys remember?
Mm-hmm. I do not remember.
The spiral is stumped.
I know the previous one was the one where they were like looking at each other, and then Mary got herself into the problem with the actual Akrita. So last week's one was a very plot-centric one. So I wonder if it was this one that we're talking about was the one that happened, because there was definitely, John had to not own up, but like admit to himself that there was a problem.
Yeah.
I assume that's when that conversation came up. You never should do this a week after we've watched it.
Because I can remember clear as day him taking the steps to like better himself by teaming up with Lata and, trying to absorb her knowledge and her clarity and zen. But I can't for the life of me remember if that conversation happened with Mary.
I don't know.
Like, I can't remember like when it would have happened.
Either the car, because that's where they share, like when she's driving, or it came out emotionally after she called him out, by trying to make it about her.
Well, Winchesters fans, tell us in the comments when it happened, if it happened.
Yes.
Tweet us and let us know, because we clearly have spaced on this.
But just speaking of Mary, though, it was so hard seeing her dream. Like, she had always held Tracy's ability to get out as a shining example of her ability to do it too. And then when she found out that Tracy only did that because she killed her friend, Mary was just like, well, so there is no example of getting out of hunting.
Back to square one.
Back to square one. My heart broke for her, because she is literally trying to stand in a position that is not only basically unheard of, but it's frowned upon by the community that she's grown up in. Like, you're supposed to, like, you don't get out. Like, you either like die in natural causes, which is unlikely, or you die because a monster got you. But as far as you like leaving and reading Harley Quinn romances and going to travel the world for the and like having your own nice little house with no monsters there, That's not something that you get to do. And Tracy was an example of like, yes, I do. And then she turned out not to be.
I've got beef with Tracy because she was withholding a lot of information. When she revealed like the truth, I was like, you couldn't have told them that like 30 minutes ago. That was useful information, Tracy.
But she was holding a lot to the vest, though, understandably, because like you'd have to admit that you, well, one, shatter Mary's dream, but two, admit that you killed your friend. And then it's coming back to haunt you. Like your other friends have died because you couldn't reach out in the way that you should have to Mac.
Yeah, and she was very much filtering information, because it was when the demon, the Sakuyant, which is what they thought it was at first, showed up. She added a little bit more in, and then when they were in the morgue or at the lab analyzing the creature's bones and find out that it wasn't actually the Sakuyant but Mac inside, she revealed a little bit more, and it very much like, I think it was designed in a way to destroy Mary's ideal vision of her, because like, hold on a minute, this person I've held up, this vision I've held up isn't all it's cracked up to be. And you do have to feel for Mary, because it feels like a little bit more of her dies inside every single week. And I love the show's characterization of her, because she's very much portrayed as this like badass who's so good at hunting, and like this is what she was born to do, but she doesn't want that. And every week she opens up a little bit more about how this life was inflicted on her, and she wants to get away from it. And that mixed with like John's lighthearted attitude towards hunting, which is then turned into this kind of like drive to make sure he gets it right and he's better than he thinks he is and everything. It's really interesting watching their journeys, which it feels like they could have lined up at a time and been a badass hunting duo together, but she doesn't want to be there anymore and he's going into it too much. So it's really become an interesting pivot on the way it started for the two of them. And you really want Mary to succeed. I know, looking at supernatural lore, she doesn't I don't think she gets her wish of getting out of the hunting lifestyle, but it's really, really, really sad to see her a little bit more of her die inside every single week, when that life that she wants so desperately is getting further and further away from her.
Michael, when you referenced the morgue, I thought of the scene and I almost brought it up until I realized it was from Wednesday on Netflix. There's too much TV, guys.
Oh man, you can say that again.
So much TV. But so even in the heartache, there's also, the Winchesters are so good about giving you light content. Because Carlos not being able to like say a sentence around Anton. Like, he walked right into that man's taxidermy shop. I'm not really sure what Anton is doing. I saw some things on the wall and I just assumed taxidermy. I've never seen Carlos speechless.
Shook. Yeah,
right.
He giggled and was just like not saying words, and I was like, oh no. So we're so down bad, and we just met Anton.
He broke Carlos.
He did. But apparently Carlos still has it, because he and Anton have a dinner date. And that's good for Carlos.
Right?
Yeah. That was a lightheartedness we needed in this episode.
It was. I hope we actually get to see more of Anton, and therefore Anton and Carlos, because I mentioned to y'all before, a little bit of a beef. Why is only Mary's man sticking around? Lata and Carlos get somebody, and those men are just there for like an episode, and then it's like, bye.
Wait, do you mean John, or do you mean the movie theater guy?
Oh no, John. I don't think about movie theater
I'm glad
guy.
the movie theater guy was a red herring.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when you were like, I think this is going to be a thing. And I was like, oh no. And then he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He was like, he's there for 2-episode arc. And then he was gone.
Yeah, he was a plot device.
He was. Oh, poor journalist man. He might be back later though.
He'll be fine.
He will be. I don't even remember what story he's supposed to be working on. He's just conveniently there.
Yeah, he's fine.
It's fine. What else for this? I'm really excited for the fall finale. Like really, really excited for it. And not just because Tom Welling is going to be in it, and I can't wait to see how he's going to be as Samuel Campbell. But it just feels like we've been building to this moment with I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but also Henry is going to be in this episode. If you didn't know, now you know. We've been building to this moment about the dads. So I really can't wait until like these two kids, have to deal with some deal head first with their dad issues instead of talking about them. Like we actually have to confront them now.
Mhm. And all of this is going to be happening, I think, when they have their first confrontation with the Akrita, like in general person confrontation, not with the like spider creature that we saw a few episodes ago. But I'm pretty sure in the promo teases a scene with Bridget Regan as the Akrita leader confronting Mirai. So I feel like this could be the most important episode of the seasons thus far, the series thus far. Who knows? But like, if you're going to go out, that's a good way to go out. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, it's gonna be so good. And then we'll be back on with them on Tuesday, January 24th. So we won't even have to wait that long in comparison to like, what was it last year where the falsos went off and like, what was it, Riverdale and the Flash didn't come back till March?
Yeah,
Like,
that was a long wait.
Those were rough days.
no. But we won't be doing that with the Winchesters. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where the season goes. But I feel like we reached the halfway point now, and I can't wait to see how the conflict all plays out. And I'm sure it'll change the season going forward. I feel like we're ready for a shift now.